Hello to all of you hardworking moms out there. This is episode 37 of the Solve for Mom podcast, the show where you find out how to get back to being who you want to be instead of just who you need to be, both at work and at home. I'm your host, Anoki Kapasi, and I am so excited you're here. Have you ever looked at that endless to-do list and felt like it was somehow defining your worth as a mom? Like somehow the number of unchecked boxes on your task list was this direct reflection of your capabilities. I know that feeling all too well. Our to-do lists are supposed to be just a tool, but instead they somehow have become this hard judge of our value, almost as if it's scolding us when we decide to take a moment of rest or we just can't get everything on that list done. It's hard enough to find ourselves in motherhood, but then we're doing ourselves this disservice by letting our identities be defined by our to-do lists. That's why today I'm sharing my perspective on why you are not your to-do list. You're going to understand the difference between who you are and what you do. How to stop letting our tasks from labeling us or from taking away ownership in our lives. If you're ready to not just reclaim control over your tasks, but also reclaim your identity, then get that journal out. This episode is going to give you lots to write about in there. Are you looking for a way to blend success and motherhood without losing sight of who you are? I get it. I've been there too. Hi, I'm Anoki, a PhD researcher, business owner, and homeschooling mom of 2 boys. As your life coach, I help moms like you create a life you love at home and at work. If you're ready to stop feeling overwhelmed, overscheduled, and overlooked, and you want a clear roadmap to a balanced life, a meaningful career, and finally feeling like yourself again while still being the amazing mama that you are, you're in the right place. In this complex equation we call life, it's time to sharpen our pencils and our minds and solve for mom. Before we start, I want to invite all you ambitious moms trying to find your path to join my free Solve for Mom Insiders newsletter. Twice a month, you're going to get science-inspired strategies and practical tips to help you create that life that you're dreaming of. Whether it's starting a business or pursuing a passion project or simply finding balance in your daily routine, you're going to get exclusive early access to new resources, personal stories about what's working and what's not in my home and at work, and also first dibs on upcoming offers. And for those of you who are early in your entrepreneurial journey, you're going to be surprised at how open I am about my business. And so this newsletter is one way you can get behind the scenes insights. I know many of you are feeling overwhelmed, trying to balance your work and family and dreams. And it can be a lonely ride. So come join our community of purpose-driven moms by clicking the newsletter link in the show notes. We're at a stage in our lives as moms where it's getting harder and harder to just feel normal, right? To be able to relax and actually listen to our own thoughts, to calm our nerves and decompress and just simply feel like ourselves. And that's why I think we're doing ourselves a disservice by linking who we are as a person, attaching our value and worth to our long list of things that we need to do. Most of these things on our to-do list are responsibilities and obligations, and often just doing things for other people or maintaining our homes and keeping our day-to-day going that really isn't just about us, but for our entire family or our community. I want to briefly make the case that who we are extends beyond our responsibilities and all of these tasks. There actually is a way to connect with our authentic selves that goes beyond all these little nitty-gritty things that we have to do every day. And when we do that, we're going to be creating a life that's full of meaning and not just a series of boxes that have to be checked off. And so today I'm just going for it. And I'm going to share why we just need to stop letting our to-do list define who we are and how we can start reclaiming our own sense of self. You often hear me say that as moms, we take on so many roles and responsibilities. And the truth is that as women, we generally tend to be very multifaceted. But even before becoming a mom, we had this whole life that was full of adventures and successes, even though we wanted more than anything maybe to be a wife or a mom like I did. We still had full careers, adventures in childhood. We had discovered passions and even accumulated achievements. So even though it feels like we have to dust off a bunch of memories before we can remember who we used to be, the fact is that those still make up part of who we are today. We may now find ourselves in new roles, like as a homemaker, a caretaker, provider, or nurturer. And each one of these comes with more tasks, but we are not defined by those tasks, right? These are labels that we might give ourselves or that society has thrust on us, but let's not conflate our roles and our tasks with who we are at our very core. Yes, those might be part of our new identity, but they are not our whole identity. Just like who we were in the past doesn't make up our whole identity now, but they're still a part of us. So we don't go from being a professional to a wife. We're both, even if we pause our careers. We don't go from being an avid runner to a mom. We're both, even if our fitness goals change. So part of our new identity, but not all of it, is to take on these new roles. We are constantly being challenged as moms. So who you are and what you have to do, they are two very different things. The tasks versus identity. A task is something that needs to get done in order to keep things going, like maintaining your home. I mean, when's the last time you looked at your to-do list and felt totally lit up and you're just so psyched to get cracking on it? No, usually your tasks are things that you just need to get done in order to have a sense of normalcy. Our identities, on the other hand, are really a holistic concept. Your identity comes from so many different things. They partly come from our roles that we play because we spend time doing things in those roles. But our identity also comes from our core values, our past experiences, our knowledge, our insights, and new ideas that we develop. Our identities consist of our likes and dislikes, things that make us unique, our passions, and relationships and connections that we have with other people. So when you look at it that way, to define identity by a list of tasks is really like calling an apple an orange. Some of you are probably thinking, well, Anoki put that way. Yes, that does seem really illogical. Why are we even making this comparison? Why are we talking about this? Well, it's because so many of us let our daily tasks define us. We let it take power and tell us who we are, how we should feel about ourselves and about our day, and even assigning value to our self-worth. First off, letting our tasks define not just what kind of day we're going to have, but also our worth is really giving that task list way too much power. The thing is that we are doing this voluntarily, unfortunately. So speaking for myself, I really love the idea of crossing things off a list. It is just so satisfying. It really is a feeling I look forward to. I have notebooks with pages and pages of checklists and my strike-throughs. And yes, I do have systems and workflows, all things that I talk about, and much of my processes are automated. But even in my time blocks or my Notion task cards, it still boils down to a to-do list. They might be smaller because of the way I've organized it, but it's still a to-do list at the end of the day. So today, if I were to go into my workflows and combine all my tasks that I have to do, here's some things that pop out. Unload the dishwasher, water the plants. I have to remind myself to give the boys a haircut. I also need to schedule my vision appointment. Another example is that I have to decide on a course hosting platform for my business. Okay, so that's just an example of some selected items that I had on my list to get done today. Like I said, all of these tasks are not on one list. They are all put into various time blocks and set into specific workflows. So at the end of the day, when I conquer everything that's on my task list, I can feel like a real supermom. But why is it that when you see rows of uncrossed tasks, it just feels so deflating? I mean, we know why it happens, right? Those are the days that no matter how many emails you answer or clothes you fold or places that you drive your kids to during the day, it still feels as if there just aren't enough hours in the day. And yet, we still let that unfinished list define our value. We let it convince us that we failed in some way. Now, in the past when this happened, I not only let it define my value, but I even relinquished my voice. So not only would I tell myself things that I'm bad or a failure or suck at something, but I would become that type of person that I didn't want to be. I would find myself saying no if my child wanted to play an extra game with me or read a book with bedtime. I would say no if my husband wanted to snuggle with me on the couch. And I would say no to my body when it asked to get to bed earlier. I felt like I didn't deserve these things because I hadn't finished all the things that I had set out to do, and I was starting to feel scattered and stressed and overwhelmed. And so I would let my endless to-do list tell me that instead of being this kind of person, I was this lesser kind of person. And then instead of trying to do the things I wanted to do, it's like I was punishing myself and not letting myself do them. It was like this emotional roller coaster that was all hinged on whether I finished everything on my list or not. If you want to get off that crazy roller coaster, this is how you reclaim your power. First, you need to show yourself some grace. I asked myself, was it really a quote-unquote unproductive day? Because if you look at the list, you do have some things crossed off, right? If you take the time to look, you might even see that you managed to cross off more things, like more than half the list, than there are things that aren't crossed off. So I like to focus on what I did accomplish first, and I like to give myself credit for that. Now, I'm the type of person who also tends to attack the harder things on my list first. It's not like every row on that list has equal weight, but when you see it on your screen or on paper, sometimes it feels that way because you haven't assigned different importance to it. I also try to take the time to understand why I wasn't able to complete it. And not in that harsh, judgmental way, but instead in a sort of curious, what can I do better way? Perhaps you were being too ambitious, or do you need to refine your time blocks? And really, this doesn't take a lot of time. And the more you can hone in on specific areas of work, then you have specific actions you can take to refine. For example, maybe you need to update the way you plan out your time blocks. Or did you misjudge the time, your environment? Maybe something unexpected cropped up. All of this puts the power back into your hands so that you can do something about it the next time around. Another thing I like to do is to consider prioritizing. You might need to rethink your to-do list. Remember I said that not every item on there has equal weight. Start thinking about what your non-negotiables are. What are the things that have greatest significance to you that might make the most impact on your day or for your family? Also, is your to-do list aligned with your values, your vision, your purpose, your goals? Remember that life plan. That is your decision-making tool, honestly, for your to-do list. Use your life plan to decide what things can you let go. And then apply that focus funnel so that you can eliminate, delegate, reduce, or even automate things on your to-do list. I'm going to link an older episode that talks about the focus funnel in a little more detail. You can find it in the show notes. One more specific action you can take for your to-do list is to be sure you plan in buffers, downtime, or adjust it so that it accommodates the varying paces and energy levels. For example, is your day all about rushing from one thing to the next, or do you also have moments of peace and calm? Did you filter your task list through that minimalist mindset, which I've talked about before? I'll link that in the show notes as well. By organizing all the things that you have to get done in a day and being able to assess what's working and what's not, you're going to be able to take back control of your to-do list, and also you'll be more empowered to be the person that you want to be and to have more perspective on your self-worth. The next thing that's going to help is to start thinking about how you can unlink who you are from the outcome of each of your tasks. See, the problem is that if you tie who you are to your tasks, then if a task doesn't turn out the way you wanted, then the way that you and others see yourself is going to be chained to the final result. If you have an unavoidable interruption, let's say, in the middle of a task, maybe you had to take your kids to an appointment and you didn't finish that task. Does that make you a bad person because you didn't actually finish that task? It doesn't say anything about the fact that you tried to do it as best as you could. And you know, guys, that I'm really big on taking action, to put in the best effort, set yourself up for success, but then to take that messy action, do the hard thing, and not be a perfectionist about it, because that's going to hinder you from actually trying something. And remember, failing at things is really important. It's an important way to learn. We talked about that in the past. So if you drop your kid off late to a class or a birthday party, does that make you automatically a bad mom? What if you make dinner and it just doesn't quite come out the way that you wanted it to? You tried it. It's not like you didn't put in the effort. Does that automatically make you a failure? Now, there's a difference. You might still want to have a vested interest in how things turn out, right? That's part of motivation. That's part of wanting to improve and getting better and better at things and trying and seeing how successful you are. I get that. However, if your identity hangs on the result, then your emotions are going to be tied to it too. So if your house is a mess today because you didn't get to cleaning it, then you're going to automatically think you are a mess. Or if your cooking needs work, then you're going to start thinking that you're failed and maybe be depressed about it, or that you need to be worked on. When in fact, it's just a skill like any other skill that is going to take time for you to master. So why do we keep doing that? Why do we link ourselves to these tasks that we have to get done and then to how they eventually turn out? Probably because as a mom, most of the cleaning and organization and these day-to-day responsibilities do fall on our shoulders. But the thing is that you might be the one who takes the lead on maintaining your home, as an example. But that isn't you. That doesn't equal you. And the reason is because you're not actually doing it just for you. Even if the execution falls on you, other people have a stake in it. Your family has a stake in having a clean home. Your family has a stake in having dinner on the table. So I'll use our home as an example again. It's represented by my whole family, my husband, me, and my kids. If it was just me, I would probably choose different decor. I'd have a much cleaner home, I think, and I would have used the space a little differently. We try to keep our home quite open because I have two boys that really like to run around and be physical, and I would rather them have the space to move their bodies the way they want than for me to have super nice things that introduce corners and things that they can bump into all the time. However, when it comes to actually maintaining the home, at least the cleanliness of it and organization of it, then most of that does fall on me. Whereas when it comes to maintaining the structure and the exterior of the home, a lot of that falls on my husband's shoulders. One of the ways to unlink the actual task and even the outcome of the task to our identities is to actually get everyone's involvement. It has been a big shift that I've made over the last couple of years. When something has to get done, I get their entire input. We have discussions. I'm not talking about lengthy discussions, but I will communicate to them what needs to get done and how I would like their help. They invest their effort and therefore they feel invested in the outcome as well. And we enjoy the results of our hard work together. We celebrate them together. When we're cooking dinner, it's not usually just one of us anymore. We try to scoop in the kids and have them get us the spices, or try to chop something up, or heat something up in the microwave, set the table, things like that. And then the other thing that I've really tried to do, it's more of a recent thing, especially when I'm around mom friends, is to stop having those superficial discussions and really try to start getting deeper on things. I have been making a concerted effort to really start asking more questions. It used to be that I would introduce myself as so-and-so's mom, and then when we ask each other how we're doing, I would say, oh, I'm so busy, I'm doing X, Y, or Z. I was linking who I am to being a mom and then all the things that I have to do in the day. And now I take the lead and I try to ask my friends and people that I meet questions that I can really learn about who they are and what they're experiencing, things that they like. When they say something, I'm really actively listening, and then I have follow-up questions. Honestly, it also helps me remember who they are. Usually, once I do a little bit of that, then the table turns and they start asking me those kinds of questions. And in this way, we not only connect on a deeper level and we start really bridging friendships and relationships with each other, but also I get to be known more than just as a series of tasks that I have to get done in this current week. People start remembering very significant things about me, things that add meaning to my life. And those are the things that I want people to define me by, not by the stream of responsibilities I am trying to tackle on any given day. So I'm going to end with a story before we wrap up. I homeschool both my boys, and so for each day, I have a list of things that we'd like to learn about and try to get done as part of their school. It used to be that we could never just finish and get through everything. And I used to feel like I was a bad teacher, that perhaps they weren't learning well, and my biggest worry, which is that they might be falling behind. But when I actually would stop to assess how much progress they had made and how far we've come, I started to see that it wasn't about the daily little lists that I used to make. I actually started making these photo albums, and then often I would convert them into books so that we would have one for each year, and it was amazing. I would be so surprised at how much we were getting done, and it would be so fun to look back and remember that they were learning all along, even though every day I would sit there and be like, oh, failed again today. Oh, failed again today, because I was letting the list tell me that we had failed. Now, there were also other ways that I could evaluate how they were doing, so those would be additional ways to affirm that we, in fact, were making a lot of progress, and that judging our homeschool based off of just a series of lists was like looking at our school with sunglasses on. Now, I have definitely refined things over time and with experience. At no point did we ever stop trying to improve and make things better in our homeschool. When you unlink your identity and your emotions from your to-do list, it doesn't mean stop trying and stop trying to improve and better yourself. I learned how to simplify things to the appropriate amount of challenging material, and I figured out how to mix in movement and fun subjects and projects and field trips and social time into our more academic periods. I learned to build in buffers in case we needed to play catch up during the week. And one of the biggest things I would do is I would plan out the entire school year during 1 week in the summer. It was sort of like a life plan, but for my homeschool, where I would set out the vision and all of the goals that we would have for each week and each month. And that really set us up for success, because then every week and every day I knew exactly what we would have to get done, but I would have a zoomed out view to make sure that the flow and the energy that we were mixing in social time and other things along the way. So, are you ready to transform your relationship with your to-do list and reclaim your identity? Let's recap the key strategies that we discussed today to help you take control of your tasks while maintaining your sense of self. First, celebrate your wins by acknowledging what you've actually accomplished before rushing to label your day as unproductive. And then, approach uncompleted tasks with this curiosity rather than judgment. Analyze what prevented you from completing it and make strategic adjustments to that approach. You also want to set yourself up for sustainable success by implementing ways to prioritize. So that's having a life plan and using the focus funnel. You want to have systems and create efficient workflows as well. You can include buffers into your schedule and align your tasks with the natural rhythms of your day. And remember, try to get anyone who has a vested interest in that task and its outcome involved in actually executing it. And then remember, when you get into conversations with people around you, try to go deeper into that conversation so that you're not consistently identified by just the role that you have or what you do. Remember, you're not defined by your task list. Your worth extends far beyond what you actually accomplish in a given day. And if you're feeling overwhelmed by your to-do list and you're ready to reclaim your identity beyond the checkboxes, I invite you to join me in my Balanced Mom coaching program. In this transformative program, you're going to learn how to show yourself some grace, master the art of prioritization, and create a balanced approach that's going to let you celebrate your accomplishments while maintaining your sanity. So click that link in the show notes to start your journey towards becoming a more balanced and empowered mom who knows her worth isn't measured by how many tasks you complete. And if you're still sitting on the fence, just go ahead and book a complimentary first call so that we can find out whether this is going to be a good program for you. And because it's free, you really have nothing to lose. I hope today's episode will help you create time and freedom to pursue something you love to do. If you enjoy this show, please subscribe and tell other ambitious mamas about it. Who knows, you might even make a new friend by sharing a tip. It's all free. By the way, it would be amazing to hear what you think about the show when you leave a review. After all, my passion is to make this a great experience for you. Thank you for making my show a part of your day. I'll see you next week for another episode of the Solve for Mom podcast with Anoki Kapasi.